Hi everyone, Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be looking at a second piece in the Inktober session, and it's called Adventures with Daisy. Now this is a piece that's inspired by James Luke Burke Creative, and you can see the prompt list that I'm working from on the left. His idea was to create a collaborative book. So he's got a character Daisy, which he's given us a cheat sheet on how to draw, and little prompts that will eventually end up like a book. So today's prompt that I'm working on is one called "The Man in the Moon Still Asleep on a Heap of Exhausted Fox Sheep." So for this, I had to do a bit of practicing, and this is what I've been doing. I'm working in a Jane Davenport watercolor journal, and I've been working on the right hand side pages, and I've been using the left hand side pages to test out ink strengths, to test out different drawings and so on. This is the first time in this series that I've actually drawn beforehand, before I inked. For a lot of the other ones I've just inked something up. So I'm using a Stabilo oil pencil to draw out my images, and the reason I did that, and you could see what I just did then, I had 4 sheep foxes there. I didn't like the top one, it just didn't balance it right, didn't give me enough room for the moon. So with a little bit of water and just sponging it off, you can actually remove most of the pencil. If I used just a graphite pencil or a grey lead pencil, that would probably still be very visible because the ink is fairly transparent, which is one of the things I found when I've been working with it. So by no means am I an expert in one drawing or two inking. This is just showing my progress as I go through. This series, I've now done 12 pieces in this series, is my first experience using ink. Pretty much my first real experience of really having a go at drawing as well. So everything I'm learning is, a beginner learning. I was really happy. I practiced drawing the man in the moon the other side. I was really happy with how the Stabilo oil pencil sort of bled out and gave that beautiful shadowing. I just couldn't replicate it on the piece that I had. It was just a bit too sharp. So you'll see me go back and work on that again and again. I was really happy with how the fox sheep turned out though. It's kind of an unusual thing, but one of the things I've learned as I'm going through, and you can see that on the figure of Daisy, is just to break things down into really simple shapes. Once you do that, adding the detail doesn't actually take too long, and it actually makes it look more realistic. And you'll see later on as I go on, most of the time actually comes in adding the really fine detail to the page. Once you've blocked in most of the image, it's all good. So one of the things I'm struggling with my daisies, and you'll notice when I've got all the pictures up at the end, is they seem very, very static and they're in the same position. I need to branch out and work out how to draw figures in different positions. That's something that's I'm a bit scared of doing. It took me a long time and a lot of courage to try and get her to have her hand up to her lips like she's shushing the shit because it's, everyone's asleep. Just trying to work out the mechanics of that. So it's still a learning process as we go along. The great thing about this project is that there's no restrictions on how Daisy looks. She's got some general characteristics, which is this sort of scallopy hair, the big glasses, freckles, which I keep forgetting to put on pieces, and sort of scallop features on her dress in some way, shape or form. For my daisies, what I've chosen to do to keep them consistent is to put some white dots on the glasses rim and to have that same dress or that same style of dress in each of the images. And I found that having that go the whole way through has really helped me sort of keep my daisy looking kind of the same the whole way through. So at the moment I'm going back to work on the man in the moon, and again just wetting it, adding more ink, wetting it, blotting it off, and you can see it sort of building up the layers, which I really like. So this is using a Posca paint pen, one of the fine nib ones, and it's fantastic. I've been using this to do most of my white work. I do have a uni ball Signo in white. I find that isn't quite as forgiving, and because it is a biro, it sometimes digs into the page a little bit, whereas this sort of sits more on top. If you find it's a little bit too translucent, you just need to go over it again when it's dry, and you get a really, really bright white from it. So this is where I start to have lots of fun. I love pattern work and putting patterns in. So I just have fun putting lots of patterns in. I was really happy with how my hill went with the dots in the background, but as you can see on the body of Daisy, it was still a bit strong. I couldn't throw it into the background enough. So I combat that by putting the dots onto her dress and then adding some straight black on into the dots, so it sort of hides where that is. So to add the black, I use a food ball pen, which is a very broad nibbed pen. The pen I'm using now, the fountain pen, trying to think of the name, is a carbon ink, so it's waterproof ink. So once you've drawn it out and it has dried, it is waterproof, so you can go back over it again, which is really, really handy. And because it's such a fine line, it just gives that impression of an outline without being really dominating. You can sort of see in the fox that it sort of defines it, but doesn't really take away from the full image, and kind of looks like almost like pencil lines. One of the things that I've done on this piece that I haven't done the other pieces is use the Stabilo oil pencil, and I've really enjoyed the look of that. And you'll see on the moon, I go back in at the end and shade with the Stabilo oil pencil. I know that's a technique a lot of people use with watercolour. They go back over with colour pencils. I've never been brilliant with colour pencils, so it's not a technique I've really played with all that much. But it's certainly something that I will be looking at doing it again in the future. Later on, when we go through some of the finished pieces I've done so far, the one with the seashells, I use this technique again of using the Stabilo oil pencil, and it just gives the image a softness and texture that it doesn't get in any other way. So it's just a really fun thing to play with. So that's what I've really been enjoying about this. It's certainly been challenging, and it's definitely pushing me outside my comfort zone, but I'm learning lots and lots as I go along. And if you're interested in doing this project, if you go to James Luke Burke Creative on Instagram or on his YouTube channel as well, he has daily pictures of what he's creating, and he talks sort of through the process of what he's doing, or you can see what he's doing, and it's really interesting to see lots of different people's take. And same with Instagram, there's a tag which is JBL Creative Daisy, and you can see everyone else's daisies and how different they are, but because they've got that common prompt that everyone's working from, you can still tell the story, and you can still tell what's happening. So that's been really, really fantastic and very motivating when you're doing this project. So one of the things I've really been enjoying doing is splattering in the background, and I actually regret with this one that I didn't do a little bit more. This is one of the paler backgrounds that I've done, because on some of the other pieces I've done, I've made the background too dark. I'm really struggling sort of with the tones of the page and just trying to get the right balance. So this is me going in with the Stabilo oil pencil to add a little bit more texture, and you can sort of see that coming up. So I found the splattering has been helping, and I'm just using a fan brush with some of the ink and using some of the tissue paper just to mask off my images. So this is the final piece. I was really, really happy with how it came out. I was particularly happy with my fox sheep because, again, animals aren't my forte. This is one of my favourite pieces. This one's called, you know, a crown can be a gown if you wear it upside down. And I really love the background on this. This one is the ghost of my teapot sprouted antlers, and so did most of my hanging planters. I met a fun shower flower during my morning exploring hour, and I just had to draw tulips because when you're at the moment we're having the most beautiful tulip festival, so there's tulips everywhere. Today I'm temporary frankenfairy trimming sky-high topiary. So that was me trying a different pose on Daisy. Halloween's not my thing, so that was a bit out of my comfort zone. This is my one I'm really not happy with at the moment. I'm eating clouds for lunch. I love how they crunch. There was just everything that went wrong with this one did. This is the other page I was talking about, which is, I'm not interested in eyebrows anymore ever since these shells washed ashore. And you can see the softness that the pencil gives. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this is helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye.